Hi everyone, this is Romie Newman from Fairy God Boss. Welcome. I'm going to just give a few minutes to let everybody join in since it's just 11:30. So sit tight and you can look awkwardly at our three smiling faces while you The numbers are climbing and climbing and climbing. So I want to give everybody time to get on before we get started.
Excellent.
Perfect.
Still climbing. All right. Welcome, everybody. I'm Romie Newman from Fairy God Boss, and I'm so thrilled to be here today to talk about advancing with autonomy, how to create a career path that's unique to your talents. This webinar is provided by Cognizant in partnership with Fairy God Boss, and we're thrilled to have these two extraordinary leaders with us here today. Maria Nazareth, who's an Assistant Vice President in AI, and Dee O'Callaghan, who's the Product Manager in the Office Director of Digital Engineering. So I'm going to I have lots of exciting questions to ask you both about your career and about your unique career paths. But before we dive in, I did want to just ask you to can you introduce yourselves and just tell us a little bit about your background? Dee, can you go first?
Yeah, absolutely. Happy to. Hi, everybody. I'm happy to be here and be invited by Fairy God Boss to take part in this webinar today. My name is, as Romie said, Dee, actually Deirdre O'Callaghan. I'm originally from a small town in Cork, County Cork, Ireland, called Macroom, where I was born and raised, and that's where I started my career before relocating to Boston, where I currently reside, working in Cognizant. So that's the elevator pitch of Dee O'Callaghan.
Love it. How about you, Maria?
Hi, Maria Nazareth. As Romie said, I lead the AI and analytics practice for Cognizant, the banking and financial sector. I started out schooling in Mumbai, India, or Bombay when I left it, and lived in a few countries all over the world, including Tokyo and London, until I moved to the US, which has been home for over 20 plus years. Recently joined Cognizant and really enjoying the role that I'm in. Also, for those of you interested, married with 2 kids and a dog.
Excellent.
Thank you.
Maria, I'm getting a ping that your sound is a little muffled. So I don't know if maybe you can, do to help adjust. Thank you so much. So glad to be talking to both. So you know who I am, I'm Romie Newman. I'm the co-founder of Fairy God Boss, and I'm blown away. So many of you are interested in joining for this topic today, probably because you two are sort of at the height of technology and the height of kind of the hot spot. Financial services, technology, AI, super cool to hear about your careers. For those of you who don't know Fairy God Boss, we are the largest career community for women. We believe in empowering women through transparency. We invite you all to join and participate in our community. You can ask hard to ask questions, and you don't have to reveal your identity. You can participate anonymously. But we want we want women to help each other by sharing information, lifting each other up. And that's why we're here today, to benefit from the wisdom of Maria and Dee's career paths. And so thank you for being here, and thanks to Cognizant for providing this webinar. So I'm going to dig in and ask you each some questions, but I was just observing to both of you something I believe so deeply, which is that, you know, I see all these people, we're just sort of through the graduation season. Everybody turns to college students, and everybody turns to high school students and says, what do you want to be when you grow up? And I think there's this kind of disconnect, because no, you don't really know what a career is. You don't know what a job is until you've experienced it. It's hard to say I want to be a software engineer until you know what it's like to be a software engineer. It's hard to say you want to be a lawyer until you know what it is to be a lawyer. And so I know I've had a career path that has had many twists and turns, and you both have as well. I think the world is much more about trial and erroring than anybody ever lets on to the college and high school students. So excited to hear about your experiences and have our audience be able to benefit from them. All right, without further ado, here we go. So Dee, you were at Microsoft in Ireland, and then you came to the US, you worked at Dell and HubSpot. What do you think helps you make your advancements along the way? What was the driver of your success?
Okay, good question. Because there are, to your point, many twists and turns in someone's career. And to your point, there has been many twists and turns in my career, even before or during the transition from Microsoft to EMC, Dell, HubSpot, all those. I actually taught for a year and a half as well. So I did take many twists and turns in my career. But if I'm honest, what I would give credit to help in my career, I would have to say, is my parents. Definitely my parents. I come from a typical Irish family with 5 children, and we had the most amazing supportive parents. And we grew up in a time like when the early 80s, Ireland was facing a very difficult period with unemployment, immigration, there were political troubles, and it was a really tough time for a lot of families within Ireland. However, our parents shielded myself and my siblings from any of those difficulties, and no matter how tough times got for them, we never wanted for anything. So growing up, I really did witness my parents' resilience, focus, and commitment to my siblings and myself, and just making sure that we were happy at all times. They also were strong believers of, teaching us that if we wanted something, we put our mind to something, we could make it happen. That may take a lot of hard work, and it could even take time for, to reach our goal. But that if we truly did believe in that goal and wanted that goal, that it was ours for the taking. So that point was drilled home to us throughout our childhood, schooling, sports, everything. They apply that to everything. And I think ultimately for me, my career and my relocation to Boston 8 years ago is prime example of this. So I guess to summarize, everything, I would thank my mom and dad for teaching me never to give up. That's been the main driving factor in my career.
That is so lovely.
Oh.
So lovely. Maria, tell us about yours. How did you prepare for the career path you have in one of the hottest fields out there?
So I don't know about the preparation part, but there were a series of good advice and good decisions, I hope, that got me to where I was. Like G, it started out, when I was much younger, where my mom told me, actually, she said, there are always certain projects that are that develop a stigma of difficulty, of failure, and they're not as bad as their reputation. So if you seek them out, you learn a lot from them, right? And that's been a basis on which I think my whole career is based on, because I do seek them out. And in the role that I am in, continuous learning has been the biggest support or the biggest factor in preparing me for this role, right? In addition to that, I've been also very fortunate for the opportunities and the mentorships that I have received at the various places and people I've worked with. I love people, and consulting is a team sport. So for those of you who enjoy teams, this is the best way to work. You work with smart, eager, fun people. And I've been a techie at heart. I always was. And the blend of working in the financial industry, the regulatory industry, and of course the consulting industry has helped put me in that position to be where I am today.
Fantastic.
So it's been a series of, it's been a journey.
So Maria, let's talk about your day-to-day. You love the people. What are your other favorite things about your role? What are the most interesting things that you do every day?
So hands down, for those of you who know me, hands down, the most interesting component of my workday is meeting fun, smart people and solving challenges with them, right? For me, it's always about the people who I work with and what we're doing together. And that's what wakes me up every morning and makes me get to work.
I love that. How about Dee? Same question for you. What's your favorite part of your day?
I feel like I'm going to repeat everything Maria said in this one, but so I work in the world of digital engineering, and every day brings new challenges, highs and lows. And I have to say, the one component of my workday that is most pressing and interesting for many reasons has to be the people I work with. In particular, my amazing team of engineers and product managers. I work with very smart, enthusiastic, driven young team, and those guys take our customers on a journey of digital transformation, and these are the people that keep me motivated, keep me focused, and drive me to further grow digital engineering within Cognizant. So it's the people.
I love that. It's such a wonderful thing to say. Dee, I wanted to follow up to the conversation we had earlier and ask you, you made a few different moves along the way. Mm-hmm. How do you know when it's time to make a move? How did you know you were ready to look for something new and take on another challenge?
That's a good question. I think for me, I know when it's time to move, when I feel that I'm at my peak of learning. When you do your job in your sleep and it's like it becomes routine and I no longer feel challenged. And I think for me, I have high energy. I want to be challenged. I love learning. I love meeting new people. So as long as I'm being challenged and learning and facing difficulties and having to overcome those difficulties, I feel I'm in a happy place. But when you get stagnant within your role and you're no longer being pushed to your limits, that for me is the point of, I need something more challenging. I want to grow. I want to learn. And I think the only way we do grow and learn is by, challenging ourselves. And sometimes that means, moving organizations, moving companies, or even moving roles, which is what I've done throughout my career. Even I was in Dell EMC for quite a long time. And during my tenure there, I took on many roles. One of those roles lasted like about 7 years. And that was a real challenging role for me, and it grew, which was fantastic. But once I got to the point of, I had a team globally. They were based in India, Ireland, and the US. And I feel once that team was solid and there was nothing new I was bringing to the table, and, we were kind of very stable. That was my point of, I started to get itchy feet, and I said, it's time. I need to give this over to someone else and let them grow within that role and move on myself and see what new challenges I could bring to the table.
I love that, the itchy feet. And it takes a lot of self-awareness and courage to both have the itchy feet and then pursue it.
Definitely. I mean, you have to step out of your comfort zone at times. And I think it's when you are out of your comfort zone, that's the point you're truly going to learn. So don't be afraid.
Yeah. And Maria, you said something similar about seeking out difficult assignments. Give us some advice on that, in that how should you do that? How do you raise your hand? Do you talk to your manager? What's the way to seek out stretch assignments?
Believe it or not, by now I have a reputation and people seek me out. But
so they just find a difficult project and they're like,
they find
me.
Or I'm attracted to it as much as they are attracted to me, those assignments. But being aware of your workplace, aware what's happening in your organization, understanding what those challenges are, understanding where the organization is going next or where your client is going next, and keeping a watch for those. And those are the ones that you should seek out. Those are the ones you learn most out of.
Love it. Dee, it sounds like you are like me, where keeping busy is like a core part of who you are.
Yes.
How do you embrace that part of your personality, but make sure that you're focused on what's really important and not just what's keeping us busy?
Yeah, I don't think there's an easy answer to this, Romie, if I'm honest. And I think this is a challenge many of us on this webinar will face on a daily basis. But I think for me personally, you know, the environment I work in, digital engineering, it's extremely fast paced, as is a lot of, you know, all our careers probably today are, you know, we're in a fast paced environment. And, you know, I think for me, like leading the Boston Digital Engineering Studio, I tend to juggle a vast array of tasks on a daily basis, you know, going from office daily rituals to, you know, developing our demand pipeline, managing our customer escalations, our customer experience, customer site tours, a lot around customers, a lot around the team itself, and just there could be anything thrown at me in any one day. But I think I take every hour and every day as it comes. And I think once you have a grasp of, you know, what your priorities are, I think common sense is the key factor here, where you have to look at your tasks and prioritize them accordingly. What maybe lower down the priority list today could be number one on tomorrow's list. And also, I think mastering the art of pushing back and learning to say no to some things. It's okay to say no. And I think a lot of us in our career, and not to pin all women into this, but I feel sometimes we're crowd pleasers and we tend to say yes to everything and can become overwhelmed, and, you know, our task list just gets bigger and bigger. So I think it's okay at times to say no. And again, it circles back to the common sense of, you know, what do you say no to? I think, you know, when you got a grasp of what your responsibilities are and your priorities are, you will know. And it's okay to say no. It's okay to put your phone on mute and let it go to voicemail and get back to that person. So it's common sense.
I love it. And it is so important to say no. And that's like a muscle that needs to be developed.
Yeah, practice daily.
So, Maria, you are at like the forefront of everything. You're at the intersection of AI and financial services. First of all, what's it like to be a woman in that space? And why do you know, what makes you excited about doing it at Cognizant?
It's fun. Being a woman in that space is fun. I'm sure it's fun being a man in that space too. But I really enjoy it. It's something, and these are the two areas that I'm most passionate about. So for me, it's a perfect blend of technology as well as financial services. So for me, it's the perfect job. So I enjoy it, and it's been a fun experience at Cognizant. So at Cognizant, right? Cognizant does a lot of things right, and that's what the culture and about an organization is. It's a series of things the company does, right? It's not a checklist. It's not a metric. And some of the things that Cognizant does right, which are important to me, is encouraging you to take on new challenges, right? I spoke about those opportunities that I look for, those challenges that I look for. And the fact that the company encourages you to take on those challenges is very important to me. Cognizant also has a culture of fairness. You're not left there on your own. There's positive reinforcement, training, and of course, recognition for good work. But if I had to pick one, right, and if I had to pick one of the list, it would be empowerment, right? As one is trying to navigate through uncharted waters, the company encourages you to take on those challenges, but then also provides you the mentorship, the team, the tools, and the support to enable you to make the right decisions and then to be successful with those decisions, right? So I think that would be my number one, the empowerment and the support that follows right on the back of it, that allows you to be successful.
Well, that's ringing endorsement. That's lovely. I do want to I see lots of you asking questions, which is fantastic, and I'm thrilled for you all to be doing that. I'm going to ask a couple more questions, and then I'm going to open it up. So if you have questions, please drop them into the function that says Q&A at the bottom of the screen. I love this. There's great engagement on this webinar, so thank you. But now I have to ask you both a question that's my least favorite question to get asked, which is, what is your favorite mistake that you've ever made? Dee?
My favorite mistake. Well, first of all, I don't think there's a favorite mistake. My favorite mistake is, I would have to say, I went through a big life-changing event about in 2016, and it taught me to it kind of made me feel like I needed to move home. I needed to be with my family. It was a medical condition that I had to endure and go through, and I decided, I need to move home. I need to be with my family. I need to be there to support my family. And even though I was very happy living here in Boston, so I made the mistake to move home. And I shouldn't say mistake, because it truly wasn't. And I don't think there's such thing as a mistake, because I think, how we learn on a daily basis is by making mistakes. So what I did was I moved home. I got a fabulous 2-bedroom apartment. It was overlooking the water. It was a 3-minute walk from HubSpot, the company I worked in. And life was great. My parents were able to visit, my brothers, my sisters, my nieces, everyone was able to visit. And I was in a happy place, but I didn't feel full. And I used to come backwards and forwards to Boston, for work. And every time I'd land in Boston, I had this full feeling. And I was like, oh God, I love it here. And there was one day I was sitting at home and my dad was like, are you happy? And I replied, yeah. And he asked the question, are you happier here in Ireland or back in Boston? And I said, Boston. And he was like, do you want to move back? And I said, yes. So after 6 months, I relocated back to Boston. Was it a mistake? Yes, it cost a lot of money to relocate everything to Ireland and then back to Boston. But it was the best mistake for me, because even though Ireland is my home, it's where my family are, it's where I love to go visit my friends, and I love it. I absolutely love it. But Boston is home for me now, and it's where I've settled, and I'm making a fabulous life here. So even though it was a mistake moving home and it cost a lot of money, it was a very valuable mistake to make.
I love it. Well, sometimes we have to learn on the path, right, to learn.
Yeah, exactly.
All right, Maria, what's your favorite mistake?
Okay, so mine's a funny one, and I think I continue to make it every day. And I don't think it's a mistake, but my mom did as I was a kid. So, as a child, you're told, don't talk to strangers. And for all of you who know me out there, my favorite mistake is talking to strangers. So I walk up to total strangers and have a very intense conversation with them. And I've met a lot of interesting people and learned different ways of thinking that way. And you'll be amazed at what total strangers will share with you about themselves. And some have left me with good, you'd be, And as I said, some would leave you with good memories, and believe it or not, some I've made friends with, right? And I've been friends with for over 25 years. So either way, it's always been an interesting conversation, but talking to strangers, that's me.
That's awesome.
So, yeah.
I love it. All right, I'm gonna actually take questions from the audience now, and then I'll end with a few others to you directly. So the first question that we got is that, historically, a lot of us were trained that switching jobs doesn't look good on a resume. And you ladies have switched jobs a lot. Do you think that that's no longer holds? What do you think the common wisdom is on that now?
That's interesting. Maria, do you mind if I jump in?
Absolutely. Go ahead.
So I don't think there's a clear answer to this, to be honest. And for me, I think in the world we live in now, with technologies changing daily, you know, I think people do tend to jump jobs a little more, and it's a little more acceptable. Whereas, you know, kind of my parents' era, you went to work for a company and you retired in that company, and that's the way it was. But I think it's definitely more acceptable now to, you know, change jobs and change companies, given that you're advancing your career. What I would look for is a kind of progression path in changing careers. And if you're someone that's, you know, totally zigzagging on a yearly basis, it's going to raise alarms. So I think you just got to be clever about your next move and ensure that your next move is for your career and it's going to benefit your career and, you know, help you progress further along your career. So as long as you kind of stick to that, I don't think it really is that big of a deal.
And Maria, one of the things I kind of hold on to is that there's research that shows that there's different promotion standards for men than there are for women. It says that men are promoted based on potential, what you think they could accomplish in the future. Women are promoted based on performance, meaning what they've actually done in the past. Given that, how do you recommend that the women listening on this webinar should seek promotions or seek advancement within their companies? What's the best way to show you're ready for the next step and be identified for it?
So it's interesting you brought up that research point, and I do believe that research point is absolutely right. But it's right for a reason, right? It's not the fact that your supervisor, your manager is looking to promote men with potential or women who have been successful in that role. I think as women, and I don't mean to be generalizing here, but we wait to ask for that next step. We wait to ask for that next promotion. While as men might not do that, which is why they get to that next level faster. So the one thing I would say is don't underestimate yourself. Don't underestimate the work you're doing, and don't underestimate asking for where you want to go next. At the most, they'd say no. At the most, they'd tell you need to do a few more things, but now you know what you need to do to get there. So don't underestimate the work you do. Stand up for yourself. If you don't, nobody else does.
I think that's definitely true. Let's talk about work-life balance, which we didn't really cover in the upfront questions. How do you both handle work-life balance? Maria, you mentioned 2 kids and a dog. How do you manage that?
I would say my husband's my biggest supporter. I'd start with that. So I'm lucky to be in that position. But work-life balance, and this is probably, there are work-life choices you make, right? It's a balance that you have to achieve for yourself, depending on where you are in life at that point of time and where your career is in life at that point of time. And you balance the two. At some point of time, home is more important, and at some point of time, work is more important. And that's a choice you make. You know, and that's how you maintain it, right? So, for example, and I'll take an example, right? When I have 2 boys, and when I just had my 2 boys, I actually went and had the conversation with my manager saying I wanted to cut down on my travel because I had just had a baby, and being on the road with a 1-month-old is not it's not an option, right? So I went back and had that conversation with my manager, who was very supportive of me, right? And maybe I've been very fortunate to have those kind of people in my life, those kind of mentors, those kind of managers in my life. But that's what it is. It's a work-life choice. You got to decide what is most important to you, and then have the conversation with the people around you, whether it's your family or whether it's your work family. And you'd be amazed at how supportive people get and rally around you. But it's you. It's all about you.
Great. Dee, will you talk about your work-life balance a little?
Yeah, sure. So I'm different to Maria. I don't have kids. I don't have a dog. I don't have a husband. So For me, work-life balance, a key part of my daily routine is exercise. So I start my day every morning with, 6:30 workout. And if I don't get in the 6:30 a.m. workout, I will make sure I get in an evening workout. That's my work-life balance. I think to stay sane, I like to find time to do exercise. And if I'm not doing exercise, then I want to find time to be with my friends. And I think it's very important to switch off from work. I think when people are on the phone 24/7 or on email 24/7 and, on the clock as such 24/7, it becomes counterproductive. Sometimes people think they need to respond to an email 11 o'clock at night. For the most part, no, we don't. There are times where it's critical escalations where, you will have to jump in. But for the most part, it'll still be there at 8 a.m. tomorrow morning. So I think back to what you said, Maria, it's a choice. You have to kind of discipline yourself to switch off from work and just find your happy place. Be that watching TV, listening to music, reading books, going out for a run, going to boot camp, whatever that may be. You have to find time for you. So I think that's my work-life balance. And I think everyone on this call, including yourself, Romie, will have a different perspective on work-life balance, but you just have to find what's right for you and what stops you from working 24/7.
Yeah, and I 100% agree. Dee, I'm a huge believer that you produce better work when you take breaks and you make time to do other things. Someone responded to something you said earlier, Dee, and it sounds like she's struggling with saying no. She feels that it's not accepted by her management. She loves where she works. What would you do in that situation? What advice do you have for this person?
I agree. It is difficult in saying no. Certain people have it in them. They're crowd pleasers and they want to make everybody happy and say yes all the time and almost appear to be the person that will take on everything and is not afraid to take on everything. But we do need to say no at times. And that's just not in the workplace. That's in our personal lives as well. And I too struggle with that, believe it or not. I find it really difficult and it's a daily challenge for me. It's something that I have to practice daily. And I think when you say no, it's okay to give your reasons. And if you have got legitimate reasons as to why you're saying no at that time, rather than just saying no for the sake of no, especially if you're someone where, you've got a lull where you're quiet at the moment and you don't have much work on, saying no in a time like that doesn't really make much sense. But if you're overwhelmed at work and your task list is just getting bigger and bigger, it's okay to sit down with your manager and talk to them and say, look, I appreciate you coming to me with this work, but right now, these are the tasks I'm working on and I don't have the capacity to do this right now. But if it can wait, I'm more than happy to take it on. I mean, you can say no through saying yes by saying, if you know what I mean, you're just saying no right now. It doesn't mean it's a flat out no. It just means not right at this minute, but I'm happy to help you down the road.
I think that's great advice. So kind of a couple sets of questions that's come is, you both work like in the forefront of technology, and we all wish we did. If we haven't broken into that yet, can you give advice on how is it possible to step into technology? We have somebody who has been working in retail banking and now would like to get into IT. Is there continuing education? What advice would you have for someone who wants to make that move?
I can go first. So the fact that she's working in retail banking, right? You bring a lot of business domain knowledge to the plate, right? You're not starting at scratch. So my recommendation would be, look at the area in technology that you're looking to work in. Identify what the area is. Obviously you'd have to do some continuing education to move into the area. Talk to people around you. Talk to people in that area that can offer you the opportunity to start over there, and showcase all that retail banking knowledge that you bring and how it applies to the area, right? So take what you have, grow a little in the technology space, and then ask for help. That's how I would say it.
And I guess I got a question back to that question. It's like, is this person looking to, move into coding? Or are they looking to move into a program product management type role? I mean, you can move into the technology space and not necessarily be a full stack engineer. So I guess the question is back to the person who asked the question is it you're truly looking for? Are you looking to be in that digital space in any shape or form? If so, there's a lot of avenues that someone can take to move into kind of an engineering organization without being a full stack engineer. So,
right.
I think the person truly needs to kind of stop and understand what it is they want to do before anyone could really answer that question.
Well, and maybe the best first step is to find someone like you, one of you, to sit down with and say, maybe I don't know the landscape. Mm-hmm. So, give me the rundown and maybe you can see where there's an immediate opportunity for me, because I do think it's individual for everyone.
Yes.
Right.
Let's talk about mentorship. Lots of questions about mentorship.
Mm-hmm.
Who are your mentors and who are you mentoring? Tell us a little bit about your beliefs around mentorship.
For me personally, I think it's very important, and I have an array of mentors that I would lean on. Some are purely business focused, some are very techies, so to speak. And I think it depends. I think it's important to surround yourself by a number of mentors, be that male or female. I have a mixture of both male and female mentors, and I love to get the perspective of many different people. So I don't think you should lock yourself into find one mentor and just stick with that person. I think it's important to surround yourself by many smart people and lean on them when it's right. Get guidance from them when it's right. Run things by them. If you come up with an idea and you want to bring that to your executive board or your leadership board or your management, whichever it may be, run it by your mentor and say, hey, I'm thinking of doing this. Do you think this is a good idea? And, talk it through before going forward to present your idea or your question or whatever it may be. So for me, mentorship is very important. And I have many mentors that I've had in my life for many years, and they still continue to be my mentor. I may be in touch with them once a year, or I could be in touch with them once a week. It kind of depends. And I think yourself where that person, that mentor's strengths are, and when to lean on them.
I love that.
Many mentors.
Maria, we have a follow-up question for you, which is something that I get asked a lot. How do you manage your career with your spouses? How do you balance that? And who takes precedence? How does that work?
Wow. Okay. I never thought about this one, so bear with me as I talk through this. I never thought that either of our careers takes precedence. My husband has a very successful career, and I love what I do. I think I do have a successful career, and I don't think either of our careers have taken precedence. But every time an opportunity has arose for either of us, we have sat down and we have talked about it, and about what would be the right decision for both of us and for our family. And there have been instances where I have left I've left a place that I have loved working at because it was not the right fit for me at that point of time, or my family at that point of time, which would have been a great career advancement move, right? And so has my husband. For example, we've made a decision that we would stay in the area that we live right now, because that's where our kids go to school and that's important to them. So I think sitting down and realizing what those parameters are for your family at that point of time, because they continue to change, right? Is, I think, paramount. And I think that's what sort of driven both our careers.
Excellent. Another kind of set of questions we've gotten are, what was it about you that you found this career? Do you want to take that one first? So how did you know you were going to get into the technology space? What was your aha moment?
Is me first?
Yes.
Yeah, sure. I remember being in what we call secondary school. It's probably high school here in America. And we did a computer class. And it was the old DOS prompt. And we did Hello World. And at the time, that blew my mind that we were able to write these like words, and then we hit run and it printed out what we wrote, and we could change the message from hello world to hello friends, and it would print that. And it was, my mind just got to thinking like, how does it do this? How does, and I was just intrigued. So that's where I knew. And math was always a big thing for me in school as well. I love doing math. So that side of my brain kind of was interested in moving into software engineering. So that's what I did. I applied. That was basically the only course I applied for in school, was software engineering. And I just worked hard to get there, simply because I was intrigued. So I guess I got lucky. It could have not have worked out.
And then you were like, if I'm going to be a software engineer, I'm going to do it at Microsoft because they're the biggest. Right.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, back then, Microsoft, even today, they were a great company to start with, and they really kind of elevated me, and they were kind of the real driving factor of me in my career. I got to see people working in Microsoft and seeing them progressing, and it just kind of it sparked this hunger in my stomach where, I wanted more, and I wanted to grow and expand. And that's where I started to navigate my career from, technical solutions architect into kind of quality engineering, managing a whole quality engineering team, moving into customer solutions, eventually into kind of a business role where it was technical yet business oriented, and then moving into product management and ultimately taking over the office of digital engineering here in Boston. So it's been a journey, and it's a journey where, I can explain the path as I go along. So back to the question earlier, even though I was moving jobs, they made sense to the next stage of my career.
And Maria, same question for you. How did you find your way to AI?
I analyze everything to death. This is just my personality. But that being said, like G, I started out with fourth grade and basics, right? And the opportunities that the computer or at that point in time, it was a standalone computer monitor with the DOS prompt. But what that offered to make things more efficient, to make things run faster, and to be able to provide value. And that's the premise of how I think, right? The ability to take technology, which I love, right? I'm real techie at heart, and to take that to make things better, faster, and make better decisions quicker, more informed decisions. That's the crux on how I moved to AI. Of course, my degrees helped, right? My degrees are in the technology field, but that's also what drew me to the technology field, the ability to be able to take advantage of what's available today. And that's why I still work and do what I do, because we are so lucky to live in this age. That's all I gotta say.
I love that. So, Maria, you've told us you love Cognizant. You love the people. You love how you're empowered and supported. Anything else you want to say to the audience about why you think they should come work at Cognizant if they don't already?
I do love Cognizant. As I talked about the empowerment, I talked about the support structure. But the one thing that's interesting about Cognizant, right, and since we have a lot of women on this call, we talk about women empowerment. But the one thing I like about Cognizant, and they think about it a little differently, is they treat everyone equally, right? Which means they also treat men equally. And why that is important is because treating everyone equally creates an environment that encourages, empowers, and exposes women to better opportunities. And let me give you an example. When women get maternity leave, right? By giving men paternity leave, not only does it destigmatize maternity leave, right? Someone's gone for a period of time and then coming back to the workplace starting again. But by encouraging the men in the company to take paternity leave, it gives both the men and the women the opportunity to be successful with their children, but at the same time, it destigmatizes the maternity leave factor and makes it a level playing field. So I really like the way Cognizant thinks about things a little differently. This is just one example, but treating men equally is what I would say. Not many people know that about the company, but that's my one thing.
I love that. Dee, how about you? Why would you recommend Cognizant to the women and men who are joining us today?
Cognizant it's changing daily, and it's really progressing and moving into the digital space and all the cool stuff like AI that Maria's working on. Cognizant has got buckets of opportunities for people. It's got so much opportunity for people to grow their career. And to someone's question earlier on, if they're working in one space, how can they move over into this space? This is a company that will facilitate you in that move. So I just, anyone who wants career opportunities, Cognizant is the place. There's an abundance of career opportunities.
Love that.
Right.
All right, my last question for both of you, and there were so many questions from the audience. I'm sorry I didn't get to everybody's question, but feel free to ask them in the Fairy God Boss community following this call. So last question is, what's the most memorable piece of career advice you've ever received? Maria, can you take that first?
Yes, that's an easy one. Find your passion to what you love. Life is short. If you're not happy with your job, go find another one. Find what you want to do every day and do it. That's the only piece of advice I'd leave you with, and that's the only piece of advice I follow.
Well, you can tell that you love what you do because the joy just emanates out of you, so I love that. And Dee, how about you? The last piece of advice for our audience, please.
Sure. Maria, I love that, by the way. I just want to say I love that. So I think, Romie, what's the question was, what's the
memorable piece of career advice
that I got or that I want to give to people?
Either.
Okay. I want to say the one that I've got. And I think, you will resonate to this as well because you have a similar personality to me. You've got a lot of energy, you're driven. And the most memorable bit of advice I've ever got in my career was from an old boss who told me to slow down. And that's a bit like the art of saying no. Slowing down in life is something that I find really difficult, and it's something I have to practice every day. So like when I write that, when that email comes in, take your time, read over the email, compose it, reread it. You don't need to reply immediately. I have a tendency, I get a text, I have to reply it straight away. I get an email, I have to reply straight away. So the best bit of advice I've ever got is to slow down. And I'm told it daily by my friends, slow down. So
great advice. It's something I'm terrible at, but it's great advice. Ladies, thank you so much for spending time with us today. Your advice has been wonderful. I've loved to see your hunger for new projects, new learning, are both really admirable. So,
thank you for the opportunity. It's been a fun discussion.
Romie, thank you. Thank you so much for the opportunity. We do appreciate it.
Bye.
Bye-bye.
Bye.